Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're going to be talking about Rakdos Joins Up. For 3 colorless, 1 black and 1 red, it's a legendary enchantment that says, when Rakdos Joins Up enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever a legendary creature you control dies, Rakdos Joins Up deals damage equal to that creature's power to target opponent. So I actually really like most of the cards we've seen so far in this kind of cycle, which is to do with the legendary characters in the set. They all seem to care about legendaries, but the thing that I like most about them is that the front side is almost good enough to just be played as a card by itself, which means that you're just getting this immediate value, and then the card kind of sticks around and can provide a lot of nice incremental value. So let's look at what both parts of the card are doing here. First, this getting to reanimate something and putting 2/+1 counters on it is pretty solid. It is only from your graveyard and it is 5 mana, so if that is all that this card did, that would be a very severely overcosted reanimation spell. But of course, that is not the only thing it's doing. It also has an amazing second ability that's going to deal damage to your opponents whenever your legendaries die. Now that's really good because the damage is contingent on the creature's power, which means that you can absolutely be dealing a lot of damage with this if you have ways to recur your creatures or ways to sacrifice them. It also makes you very resilient to board wipes later on in the game when people are low, because they can't really afford to kill your legendaries or you're going to be dealing a ton of damage to your opponents. Now there are a couple of things to be said about that second ability. For starters, you are going to need to build your deck with a bunch of legendaries to get the most value out of it, although I do think there's enough legendaries in most commander decks these days that this could just be a good card in Rakdos decks to start off with. However, I do think that it's going to be better if you can put it in a deck such as Dihada, which is absolutely interested in running a ton of legendaries. Shanid, Sleeper's Scourge is obviously in the same colors and also very interested in interacting with legendary creatures. So those are both decks that are going to be very, very interested in this effect. But other than that, this is also going to be very good in decks that can recur legendaries. So any deck that has a white color identity in addition to the Rakdos is going to be able to run something like Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, which is obviously very good. Chainer Nightmare Adept also seems like a great way to recur cards from your graveyard, and seeing as Rakdos also reanimates to start off with, this actually fits very nicely there, particularly if you can throw in a few sacrifice outlets, and that's where I think this can get very, very strong. If you're playing a legendary themed deck and you have a bunch of ways to sack stuff, say something like Yeheni for example, which also fits perfectly because it gets to grow itself as well, thus having more power, then you can kind of just fling them at your opponents whenever you need to by sacking them to your sack outlets and finish off the game very handily and very easily. You can deal absolutely massive chunks of damage with this, whereas otherwise sometimes your creatures might get blocked by walls of tokens or other kind of effects that stop you from finishing off the game. When you take all of this combined, the relatively useful first ability, the amazingly powerful finishing second ability, then you kind of get a card that is better than the sum of its parts, and I think that 5 mana is quite reasonable for this, particularly considering you're going to pump the creature, which also works well with the second ability of dealing damage equal to power. So with all of that considered, I think this card has potential to see a lot of play in a wide variety of Rakdos decks, and it's yet another addition to the good cards in this set, which I think is actually fairly stacked. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.